Hello, good morning and welcome to Argyle Breakfast. Yet again, another great way to start your morning and of course the way to start your morning in the greenest way possible. We've got 2 hours of Argyle chit chat coming your way this morning because we've got a regular 3 p.m. kickoff later on. Argyle are back at home park today after a couple of away trips, and it is familiar opposition in town. Sheffield Wednesday take on the Greens. They've locked horns a lot in recent years, and this afternoon they are set to do it all over again. We just have to hope Argyle can come out on top. Let's have a look at what we've got coming up over the next couple of hours then before kick-off. We'll be hearing from the Nanskevilles, Kevin and Joe, who are both Her Game 2 ambassadors. Argyle fan and coffee entrepreneur Tom Sobey will drop in literally for a coffee morning with us. He's the founder of the Cornish-based coffee company Origin, and three-time Olympian gold medalist and America's Cup veteran Greg Searle will be with us at 11:30. So a nice couple of hours booked in this morning to help get you through the day and get you in the mood for some championship football games. Right now we are in the running. You know, the race for survival is on. Who knows what could happen though if we manage to get those couple of wins. So do stay tuned with us. And helping keep me company this morning, as always, on the Argyle Breakfast Show is Aaron Cusack.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. You?
Yeah, good.
Good.
Looking forward to today, but obviously with a little bit of trepidation as well. We maybe haven't picked up the points we were hoping to pick up in recent games, which, you know, puts everyone in a little bit of a limbo situation.
It does. You don't look down, I think, is the motto, isn't it? Don't look down, look forward and try and climb the ladder. And, you know, we're at the business end of the season now where they've just got to go for it. You know, if they keep going in the way that they are, they're going to go down. So they've got to kind of throw caution to the wind a little bit, especially at home.
Yes.
They've got to use the home advantage to pick up as many points as possible. So we've got to stay positive. We've got to think that, you know, that there is an opportunity for them to claw their way out of the relegation zone, but it's going to be difficult, we know that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, 11 games to go now, so it really is, as you said, the business end, it's crunch time. I suppose what is interesting about that, like you say, you're kind of looking down the barrel, as it were. We've seen Argyle go up against some huge teams, both, you know, in the league and in the cup, and pull off some wins or just great performances. So we know they've got the capability to pull it out of the bag when needs must. And yet, you know, sometimes when we're looking at possibly more achievable games, like the one we saw earlier on in the week, they can't quite do it. So it makes you think perhaps as the tension rises as we come towards this end of the season, that may, you know, switch Argyle into that mindset where you're almost looking at an uphill battle, and that's where maybe they're able to pull it out of the bag. Yeah,
I think so. I think it's a valid point. You know, when they're playing against rivals and teams in and around them, you know, it's easy to allow the main thought process to be don't lose the game, don't allow your rival to get points on you, which takes them further away. So you do err on the side of caution against the likes of West Brom and Millwall, where teams where, you know, we're perhaps the expectation to beat them isn't as high.
Yeah.
They are a little bit more relaxed and they can you know, roll the dice a bit more. And a team like Sheffield Wednesday today, where we've had lots of success at home against them in recent years, you know, they're in that mid-table position. So maybe they can change their approach slightly and be a little bit more aggressive and more open.
Hello, welcome back. It is 10:15 here on Argyle Breakfast this morning. Hope you're enjoying your Saturday so far. Now, next weekend, the hub at Falston Park will be officially opened. It's the first part of the new development to be open to the public, and it's going to see a variety of offerings for the people of Plymouth. looks very exciting, and I'm joined now by Head of Facilities Lewis Coombs and Assistant General Manager Agatha Evans. Hello both.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming into the studio this morning. I guess you've got a busy week ahead of you getting ready for the opening,
busy.
right?
Yeah, it's been a busy week, a busy few months, and a busy couple of years, to be fair. It's been a project in the making, and it's the first phase of what we're saying is a two-phase development. But yeah, we're just waiting in anticipation now. In a week's time, we'll be opening the doors to the public, and very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, so let's give it a rewind then. For people that aren't aware of, what's been going on over at Folkestone Park with the hub, what exactly is on offer? What can people look forward to when you open?
So it's very much a regenerational project. We've got a vast space that is under construction at the minute. The hub, the community centre, which was once recognised as Brickfield Sports Centre, has undergone a huge transformation internally inside to create more space, a better space for what will be a really fruitful suite of community assets and community services. And then needless to say, there's a lot more work going on with what the football club are offering and developing on the outdoor areas. So it's very much a community site aimed at developing sports, aimed at developing community provision, community services, but something that's very much in keeping with what we feel that postcode and that Denville area needs.
Brilliant. So, Agatha, what kind of facilities have you got on offer then for people?
Yeah, so we've got our esports room, we've got a soft play, we've got a really big hall that's going to be lots of sporting activities going to be taking place. We've got a community cafe, so we're going to we've got teas, coffees, food, it's going to be really, really exciting. We've got our partners, which have their rooms downstairs on the ground floor of the hub, and they just showcasing their offering, so it's all really exciting.
I mean, it's great. It seems like there's a lot of variety there, because
Yeah.
I think some people, with it being linked to the football club and that, would think it's probably targeted just on football, but it's
Exactly.
not the case, is it? Like you said, it's got a real wide community feel for everyone.
Yeah, we wanted to give it its own identity. So the hub being at the front and centre of the main site, we want to make sure that it speaks for what the local people need. And we want to create a destination and a hot spot for community-based services, community-based activity, where people can come and improve their own physical and mental health, their physical appearance, their physical activity levels, but as well as at the same time come and socialise, meet new people, develop their community cohesion.
Hello, good morning. Welcome back to Argyle Breakfast with me, Erin Black and Aaron Cusack. Hope you're having a lovely morning so far. I think our morning is about to get a lot better, because we've got our coffee cups here with us in the studio like we usually do. But today we've got someone joining us in the studio who knows a lot more about coffee than I could ever dream of. It's the owner and founder of Origin Coffee, Tom Sobey, with us. Also an Argyle fan as well, ticking all the boxes. So it's fantastic to have you with us. And you, now that we're on the wide shot, everyone can see you have brought some of your coffee in with you.
Yep.
Let's go to the origin of Origin.
Of course.
How did this all come about?
So my parents growing up, they had garages. My father was a mechanic, and I think he reached an age of about, probably early 40s, where he was fed up with fixing cars rolling around on cold concrete floors, and he bought a coffee franchise out of a newspaper, and so he became, much to the amusement of my friends, Coffee Man Cornwall. And Coffee Man had the most incredible sort of Mexican guy with a sombrero and a coffee cup as their logo, and like I say, that formed great amusement amongst my friend set. And so from an early age, I remember being around coffee, and Coffee Man was a franchise, so there was 80 of them across the UK. They had Coffee Man Plymouth, Coffee Man Devon, etc., etc. And so that was that. And so I left school, didn't particularly know what I wanted to do, but we lived in remote part of Cornwall near Falmouth, and I knew I wanted to pass my driving test, and so I saw my father's van there. So that was my entry into making a living from coffee. Was I learnt to drive in the Coffee Man van as such, and that's how I got into coffee. And then my journey was, I worked for my parents for 4 years, delivering coffee, doing lots of other different things. And I think a friend of mine who worked for Rick Stein, he was going travelling, and I'd always wanted to go travelling. And I think coffee at the time in Cornwall was very much filter machine, office, no espresso, no cappuccinos, no lattes. And I decided to go to Australia, and the whole coffee culture was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it's big over there, isn't it?
Huge over there, and it was incredible. And I visited roasteries, I learned to be a barista, and I came back and I said to my parents, I now know what I want to do. And so they were super supportive. Nobody was roasting coffee in Cornwall at the time, so what I wanted to do was become a coffee roaster and teach people how to make great coffee, and that's ultimately how I started. So yeah, that was my start into this journey.
Wow, I know there'll be a lot of interest in this because, you know, this time in the morning, a lot of people are having coffee, of course, but we've also got an international contingent online that call themselves the Mugs Up crew.
Right.
So every time there's a game, they will always share photos of each other with their mugs.
Oh, that's cool.
You know, with their, more often than not, coffee in them, to give them a shout out, hello to the Mugs Up crew. What is the key then to, you know, making yourself a good coffee?
A good coffee at home?
Yeah.
I guess I would always say the way to improve brewing your coffee at home would be just simple steps of a grinder and scales. So if you think about a lot of coffee that you may buy in the supermarket will be pre-ground, and the instructions will be teaspoons per cup. So if you look on the side, they may say a cafetiere, use 3 heaped teaspoons per cup of coffee that you want to brew. If you take into consideration, every teaspoon is probably a different size and every cup's a different size. So what we do is we work on grams per litre. So if your cafetiere is half a litre, we would say 60 grams per litre of coffee that you brew, use 30 grams of coffee per litre as opposed to a spoon per cup.
Okay.
So a ratio of that size. The reason for using a grinder is 65% of aromas are lost within 15 minutes of grinding. So your coffee will taste and smell 65% better if you grind it and brew it straight away. So if you buy scales, small scales, and you buy a small grinder, you weigh out if your cafetiere is half a litre, 30 grams, grind it, brew it properly and follow a good recipe, which you can find online, your coffee at home will taste so much better.
Now in the studio, Aaron Cusack, of course, has been with me all morning, and we have been joined by Adrian Burrows, who has a 10-year career at Argyle, is that correct?
Yes, yeah, I can just about remember.
Well, thank you for coming in. First of all, how are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Lovely
it's good to be back at home park.
Yes, I mean, you said, you know, when we were just talking a moment ago off camera, you said it's great to be back. You don't get to come back maybe as often as you like. So, you know, what's the situation around that? Where are you based?
Well, I'm a driving instructor these days, but I'm retiring soon. I've decided it's time.
Good for you.
So I'll be at home park definitely more often than I have been recently.
I think it's, you know, it's fantastic to see former players, you know, come back to the club and actually get to enjoy, you know, to enjoy watching it. Does it hold a little bit, you know, more something special when you watch it later on as a fan, knowing that, you know, you hold your own memories quite close?
Yeah, you've got that attachment, you know. I mean, I came down to the West Country in '84. I was at Northampton and I wasn't happy with how things were going there, and I thought, I'm going to. So I wrote to several clubs, and Plymouth replied and said, "Yeah, would you like to come down and we'll have a look at you." So I'd not been playing particularly well in my last season at Northampton, but I thought I need a new challenge. So I came down, and John Hall was the manager, icon John, and I enjoyed it straight away.
So is that normal for that time? What you said, you wrote a letter to Argyle. Is that, you know, as like a player yourself, you were looking?
I just took it off my own bat to do it. I thought, you know, I need to.
But do other players?
There was no social media back then.
No,
was there agents back then as well? Or was it
there were 1 or 2 agents then, but not anywhere near like the scale of today.
Well, it's good to see though, like being proactive and like you know your
taking
own
your
agent.
future into your own hands, really, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah, I suppose if you want to make a change, you wrote to a few.
If you want something badly enough, you go to any lengths.
Yeah. So you wrote? Did you write to a few clubs to? Yeah. And what was it about Argyle that, you know, they were on the shortlist for you? I guess.
Well, I needed to come down and have a look as well. So I was invited down, and John met me on the Hoe
Yeah.
to sell Plymouth. To
Yeah.
Most people do, don't
I think
they?
that is
I think
like
it
the
was. I
starting
think it was a
point.
Holiday Inn.
Okay.
On the top floor we were in the restaurant, and of course you're overlooking the whole of Plymouth pretty much. So yeah.
Hopefully it was a sunny day at least.
It was.
That
It
does
was a
help
nice,
sell
nice
the
day
dream
as
a
well.
little bit.
So yeah.
And was that like, because players like yourself who have come to the area in the past and then, they do fall in love with the backdrop as well in the environment, and was that obviously an attraction? I appreciate you want to play the best level of football you can.
I was born in Nottingham, and then my first club was Mansfield, and you're just about as far from the sea as you can get over there. So, but I had 2 seasons at Mansfield Town. Then I went to Northampton Town. Mansfield were having a few problems, and so I decided to move to Northampton, and I played really well in my first season there, and then not so well in the second. But I thought, I need a change. And when I came, I've been down here ever since, of course. So I've lived in the West Country now for 35 years or so.
And that's the bit we were getting to.
I mean, it does happen, doesn't it?
Yeah,
to quite
people
a few players,
end up staying here because of the demographic and how pretty it is.
I mean, there's some players that come down and then when they don't really stay maybe that little bit longer, they're keen to go back. But with me being down here and then managing to play for Plymouth for 10 years, I love the place.
Well, the danger men that they've got a number of them, but the players we've gone for is the first one is Josh Windass. So Josh Windass, attacking midfield player, not necessarily a centre forward, but 10 goals already this season. I'll say already, but 10 goals is a decent return in the campaign, 3 assists. We know he's got quality. I'll tell you what I like about him, he's ultra aggressive. He's an aggressive physical player. And he's got goals in him in all sorts. I mean, some of the goals are wonder goals. I mean, this goal here is absolutely outstanding, isn't it? What type of threat is he going to pose?
Yeah, I think you can see technique-wise from that Derby goal. It's he's quality, and like you say, he wants to make those runs forwards and be aggressive and try and get himself into the box. I think when you look at the areas that he scores goals from, a lot of them come from inside the box as well. So although he plays as an attacking midfielder per se, as not necessarily a central striker, a lot of those goals that he scores are from in those 6-yard box, in and around the penalty spot. So, but obviously he's got that quality that we saw with the Derby goal. That he can score. He's got the technique to be able to hit the target from a long way out.
Absolutely.
But again, another player who actually hasn't scored for a long while. I think his last goal was that Derby goal, which was on the 1st of January, I think.
So a couple of months.
He's gone a good stretch again without a goal. I don't want to jinx anything again.
Let's
hope that continues as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we know he's got a threat. We know, like Danny Roll's style is a possession-based approach. They like to move the ball. They like to move the opponent. They like to penetrate those free areas. One player that we've picked, we don't know whether he'll start, but might have an integral part to play, is Michael Smith. So he's 8 goals, 4 assists. So he is a centre forward. But again, age is just a number. But he's towards the back end of his career at 33. But he's very physical. He's similar to Windass, and he likes to get in those. I mean, that's a terrific goal against Pompey there. But
unbelievable strike.
He's very good at just getting in and around the areas, those red zones as we call them. Again, someone that I think has got quite a good record against Argyle as well.
Yeah, and I think scored in the reverse fixture at the beginning of the season against us. So, again, you look at kind of where he's scoring goals from. A lot of it's in that, like you say, that central area, and it's about knowing how to find those spaces at times. And he's maybe not the most mobile player in the world, but if you can find and pick up the right areas in the box and be in the right place at the right time, you give yourself a chance to score goals. And obviously in Smith and Windass, they've got 2 players who are capable of scoring goals, and they've got 18 between them in the Championship this season, which is a pretty good return, really.
It's a really good return, and I like what you said there. Like both those players, and disappointing that they're opposition players. We don't really talk about opposition players, but they've got good game sense. They kind of anticipate and use their intuition to get into those critical areas. And one thing that Argyle haven't been great at recently for me is converting what chances they've created.
Yeah.
I think the Millwall one is the only one that
Yeah.
they've scored, a number of goals. But in recent weeks, we've spoken about the back line, Katic, Maxi, Pleggy, Wazzello, how effective and brilliant they've been defensively. I think today we need to turn our attention to going forward.
Yeah.
So what I've done is we've picked the two fullbacks. So I've picked Matti Sorinola and we've picked Pushkat as well. But Matti Sorinola, for me, has played his way into form under Music. His delivery is up there with as good as anyone in the squad for me. I think he's got a really good knack of putting a ball in dangerous areas. I mean, we saw the contribution he had for Maxi's goal at City last week. I'd like him to, on occasion, to try and be a bit higher, because I think he's got ability to put the ball into those dangerous areas. He's not really a runner, but he's got qualities, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem with the way we've played recently. We've been so deep and so defensive that it hasn't allowed our wing backs to be freed up to play in that attacking role, and probably for both of them, Puhac on one side, Matti Sorinola down the other side, they're probably better in an attacking sense maybe than they are as defenders per se. So it's about how you get the best out of those players, and we've seen there that the delivery that we can get into the box is decent, and it's about getting enough numbers in the box as well to convert those crosses into goal scoring chances and opportunities. But if we can free them up a little bit, and to do that we've got to be better in possession.
Yes, I agree.
Because if it keeps turning over, they're going to keep sitting deeper and deeper, because you don't want to be running forwards and having to get back as soon as you can.
I agree.
We've got to be better in possession to allow them to be freed up a little bit.
Okay, welcome back. We're into the final throes of the breakfast show now this morning, but I'm very pleased to say that we are joined by someone who is used to ending a performance strongly. It is the 1992 Olympic champion, three-time Olympic champion, I should say, Greg Searle. Greg, thank you for coming in this morning.
Well, thanks for having me. It's very nice to join
I'm liking this trend of Olympians in the studio. We've set like a precedent, I feel. But it's just so fascinating to have people like yourself who have excelled in a particular field. Actually, talk about not necessarily just the sport itself, but also a lot of the mindset that goes into being a successful athlete, which is something that I think where Argyle are currently definitely want to latch on to that kind of positive energy.
I'd love to help if I could.
So let's talk about getting into rowing then. How did that start for you?
Yeah, so I guess my mum and dad are both from Plymouth. My dad at the time was a policeman. My mum was a teacher. I was going to the local school, living up in London then. They'd moved up to London, but living near the River Thames. And I went to a school, and I think when I was, in 84, which was a big year for Argyle. It was a big year.
Yes.
Big year. My teacher from my school went to the Olympics, and he rowed with a young fellow who was called Steve Redgrave. Steve Redgrave was to win 5 gold medals rowing at the Olympics, and he got his first one with my history teacher. So I had that experience of, like you say, a performance kind of environment, seeing one and going, oh, look, this guy who teaches history also goes training quite hard and pushes himself hard, and then he went off and won the Olympics. So that gave me that kind of picture of going, oh, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could be like him. And actually, at the time I was 19, I got in the Great Britain 8, and I sat in the middle. My brother actually sat behind me, and Mr. Cross sat in the bow seats. So I got to, 5 years later, be rowing alongside him.
Oh, that's
so yeah, I got to go to World Championships and represent Great Britain with him. So that sort of set me on the path, really.
I mean, it's a testament to having, a kind of role model, I guess, in your life that inspires you to be the best you can be.
I think it's so true that when you get people in your culture, in your team, who kind of show you the way, then it gives you confidence that you're doing the right things and making progress in the right way. So it's like you say about having Olympians. I mean, I went to my Olympics, I was back in the 90s, and back in the 90s, Team GB in 96, we got 1 gold medal. I came back for London 2012 and competed, and we got 29 gold medals. So to do that kind of step change, pick up the points, when people don't expect you to, what do you need to do to make that difference between this team that's not quite firing and not quite bringing in the right talent, and the talent's not quite working together, to what we did where we drew in more diverse talent, actually particularly got into the women's sports within Olympic sport, and then changed, really turned that tide and become a very successful team, which then has good role models in it, other people you follow, and then those people then go through and it keeps moving upwards.
If I could just take you back to prior to meeting your history teacher, were you already into rowing at that stage, or
not at all?
So he got you?
No, not at all. No, it just so happened that the school I went to, my brother was super smart actually. So my brother was super academic, so we were within the normal state school. They said, you try him out for this school. We went to a school called Hampton. It was an old kind of grammar school. He went there, flew through the exams and got to go to that school. And then I went from someone who, followed football, followed a bit of, all the other sports. But I suppose, 84 was good because it was a big cup run. But, I was following the Liverpools and, you didn't get to see much live sport. So I was excited by anything I could see. And then there it was. And at this school, there was a teacher who did it. We were by the River Thames. We could get to the rowing club, pretty easily. And so I then started taking it up and went from there.
Wow.
What was it about, rowing in particular that connected with you? Because I think, people can often try a lot of different sports, especially in your formative years, and it's finding one that clicks with you. What was it about rowing that did that for you?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually, Erin, when you think about that. I suppose it's being with a good group of people, and you start to enjoy it, and you sort of start to make it more important than it really is.
Okay.
You start to think this really matters and you really want to be good at it and you want to try a bit harder at it. And I suppose you get in with a good team. I suppose you feel you've got kind of control of it and you can do something. And then you start to get good and you start to get some results and you kind of, then it moves forwards. And I think a sport like rowing has a lovely community around it. There's a kind of level of trust in it, which, in a game like football even, you can have one or two stars who can drag you through and make you win. In rowing, you don't have that. You're all doing exactly the same thing, so you really have to trust each other, right down when it comes to training. So like Plymouth Rowing Club, I opened Plymouth Rowing Club and did a kind of thing there when they did an extension there and bought some new equipment. It was lovely to go and do that. You can't go rowing as a team of 8 if 8 people don't show up.
Yeah.
Sure.
If someone's late or whatever, you all are in it together, and that's so special to have that. And I think I loved that.
Yeah, and you said before about your brother, being sat in with you, and you of course won a gold medal together, wasn't it, in Barcelona?
Yeah.
I mean, that must be fantastic. I'm sure for your parents, an absolute result.
Yeah.
But I guess for both of you to be able to share that experience together, it must have been amazing.
No, it was wonderful to do that. And my dad's come down to Plymouth with me today. He remembers standing at the Barn Park end as a young lad, and it's lovely to see any sport happening, and you get, you make it feel kind of more important than it really is. It becomes so important to you. And I guess, for my mum and dad, they'd never done this sport of rowing, but we'd found it within our school. And then anyone who's a parent, you take your kids along. I mean, I'm a parent now. You take your kids and you want them to enjoy their sport and you want to see them do well. And you don't know what good's really going to look like, and you start winning and you get to the next level. And I mean, for all of us, before we knew it, we were kind of not just dressing in sort of our club colours, we were dressing in red, white and blue. Then we're going off and it's like, well, the next thing's the World Championships, then it's the Olympics. And then you get to actually win the Olympics. And suddenly, it all feels just like just the next step, and you kind of keep it in perspective and all that stuff. It's just another game, keep it in perspective, you do all of that. But then actually winning the Olympics and getting a gold medal hung around my neck and hearing the national anthem was the time that was the first time it dawned on me that this was different to just the next race. And it was, there aren't any races bigger, and that was very, very special.